Gamers around the world rejoiced when the new trailer for the 6th installment of Grand Theft Auto dropped. However, not everyone was pleased. Andrew Tate and his brother Tristan Tate rocked the internet this week when they made his case against playing Grand Theft Auto 6, or at least against kids doing it. Let's hear what Tristan had to say.
I remember you used to play a little man in a red hat trying to rescue a princess and teaming up with your brother. Now, if rescuing purity from evil while teaming up for your brother isn't a good theme of a video game, then I don't really know what is. I'm not a fan of anyone under the age of 18, 21 maybe, playing video games where the goal is to shoot police officers. I just don't think that's good for society. With all the amazing graphics and engines and whatever people put into these video games, I feel like you could create a better objective with the game.
Now, the Tate brothers weren't the only ones to speak out about the new edition of GTA. Commentator Jackson Hinkle tweeted, "Why are the Zionists at Rockstar Games releasing this sexualized video game for children in America? Get #ban GTA6 trending right now."
And of course, so every time one of these games comes out, there's various calls from various people to ban it. Sometimes it's actually coming from politicians. I think a year ago there was some Chicago councilman who made some waves for pressing forward with a ban GTA bill of sorts. I just thought it was interesting this time for those specific individuals calling for it. I mean, the Tate brothers, I don't know, that have so much of a leg to stand on being disdainful of like sexualized or graphic material in a video game, given what they were accused of.
Because you mean that they're frequently on camera explaining how genius they are to exploit women to make on-camera sexual content that they can profit off of?
That is what I had in mind.
Yeah. I feel like I gotta say that Jackson Hinkle referring to the company, the people who are in charge at Rockstar Games, as Zionist, unless they have actually articulated a view on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, if he's just saying, oh, there's some Jewish names and so I'm going to tag them with that, that is a problem. That is anti-Semitic. Yeah. Now, if they have demonstrated some support of Zionism, then all is fair in love and war. But it does seem to be weirdly shoehorned into this other argument that he's making. Yeah. I mean, this does feel like something that comes up every time these games are released, in part because, correct me if I'm wrong, they're not only very realistic, but they are pulled from life. So I have seen people on Instagram doing, or Twitter doing side-by-side comparisons of videos of news reports of wild things happening in Florida, or, you know, car chases. You know, it's very much pulled from reality. And that combined with the fact that this is one of those games that doesn't have as clear a drive as Mario, where you're hopping laterally through a screen to save a princess. But some of the fun, as I understand it, is charting your own adventure, hitting hookers with your car, that sort of a thing. Yeah. I remember being the controversy in years past.
Yeah, it's open world, so it takes place in a fictional Vice City, but it's basically Miami. And it does have a plot. I think the plot of this one is, I think actually the protagonist is female and has just been released from prison and trying to get her gang back together or something like that. So there's actually a very kind of elaborate and well scripted plot with very interesting characters, but you can, yes, go off the beaten path, steal people's cars, meet up with prostitutes and gambling and crime and all that sort of things. You can attack random people, you can attack the police, and there was this idea. I actually think this idea has almost been successfully beaten out of society, but there was an assumption that participating in violence in video games would make you more violent, or make teenagers violent, or engage in violence. That is a theory that has like no support in social psychology research whatsoever. We don't accept it in, you know, the reading violence in books or in textbooks makes people more violent, just makes them more informed. There's this idea that because it's interactive and it's like you're in the mind of the person, you would be able to like mess with your brain or something. Again, that's been basically totally debunked.
Sure. I mean, I do think all that stuff was overstated. But me personally, I wouldn't want my children or anybody that I love to use the idea of killing sex workers with my car as entertainment, especially very young, impressionable people. But the question is, should the government be raising your kids, or do you just make the decision not to buy them?
I think the game has a mature rating, which is for, I don't know, over
I mean, this
18,
is
I think.
weird. And you're seeing Jackson Hinkle was once a left-leaning figure. I think he's charted his own path in this kind of post-bipartisan, what I don't even really know what you want to call how he identifies now. But it is interesting to see this kind of pairing here when historically it was that left-leaning people didn't want to buy into some of this culture war stuff, and also that right-leaning people used to not want the government to interfere in your life and your child rearing, or at least they said that. I mean, they've always been part of the culture war interference pogrom, but this is just another example of how none of this really seems especially political. It's just vibes. If you don't want your kid to be playing this game, which I wouldn't recommend, don't buy it for them. Make decisions about whose house you want them to stay over and how you want them to play. But is this getting really ridiculous? It's a game that, as you say, is clearly marked for more mature audiences. If you don't like it, don't play it.
Well, and importantly, the legal issue of can the government ban a game like this has been pretty decisively decided by the Supreme Court in 2011. That was the state of California had tried to restrict sales of violent video games to minors, and it went to the Supreme Court. And in a decision authored by Antonin Scalia and joined by, I think, 7 of the justices, 7 of the 9, said that no, the government could not restrict the sale of violent video games to children, just the way it couldn't restrict violent books or anything else, it's a First Amendment violation. This is artistic. This is freedom of speech. These modern games have story. Everyone can have their views on Scalia, but I've always appreciated him specifically for this decision. As a big fan of video games myself, he, very elderly justice at this point in his life, but very well understood the artistic value of video games and that they're narratively driven and that they've come a long way since just the plumber fighting the dragon monster. In fact, those games have come a long way too. Saying that, yes, this is First Amendment, you can't restrict these games. So people can keep saying that I wish the government should do something about it, but they literally can't.
Yeah, I'm old enough to remember when the controversy in the old-time games was that Tails, the sidekick of Sonic the Hedgehog, was allegedly gay.
Oh no. Heavens to Betsy.
Not a gay two-tailed squirrel.
Birdo, an enemy of Mario from the second Mario game. Birdo, do you know the dinosaur with the bow in its head that shoots eggs?
Oh, yeah.
Birdo is transgender and was always intended to be transgender.
Oh my goodness.
I know.
What will they think of next?
Yeah, don't tell Ron DeSantis. Well, that does it for us for today. Tomorrow, Jessica and Amber will take the wheel, and that will be on Fridays as usual, and Briahna and I will enjoy our weekend.
All right. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe so you never miss any content. And for those of you who like to listen while you're on the go, of course, we're available anywhere you listen to podcasts.
Have a good one.